No, there are so many incredible artists in this business. And it never used to be that way. There used to be 3 or 4 incredible artists, and then there were all the guys who kind of ground it out. And these days, that's not the case. It's just, you know, I see heart-stopping talent all around me, you know? And I know the only reason I'm able to excel is because I'm way more interested in the story. You know, and I think that's my edge, is that's my first concern. And I'll make it pretty, but not at the expense of the story.
That's a very, it doesn't get any more important than that.
Well, we often forget what we're doing here. And there is this sort of cult of celebrity that's sprung up out of the digital age. So a guy with a comic book or 2 under his belt can have a website, a Twitter account, and he's a superstar because people want to talk to him. And I don't think a lot of time's going into the fundamental things. You know, the actual reasons we're doing this is it used to be that people used to like to read them. And I think our focusing on that is maybe more important now than it ever was, you know, and less it is. I'm hoping that as digital forces us back into a mass market, that will become important again. Because I don't think we'd be able to go at it this way, this sort of boutique way that comics are, if we're forced to meet the mass market again. And you know, one of the questions that's always fascinated me is, you know, myself aside for a second, let's take a good example who's, you know, not too sensitive. Grant Morrison. How well would Grant do in the mass market? You know, it's a fascinating question because his work is so completely screwed into the nuance and the multi-layered stuff that's gone into comics for the last 30 years. Would it mean anything to anybody outside of this? And what would Grant have to do with his work in order to capture a mass market? So it's kind of interesting. And I just use Grant as an example because he's a great writer who works best within this framework. And I don't want him beating me up.
Anybody else? We're getting close to the end.
I just have a question. Why did you decide to do the one to two color for Parker instead of doing a full color?
Money. No, these are the concerns you have. When we went into Parker, there have been very few successes at this. I mean, outside of the mainstream, they're there. Scott Pilgrim, Persepolis, I mean, these books are everywhere. But within the mass market or the mainstream comic, it's like they don't exist. And you know, I've always had my eyes very firmly on that work as well. And you know, Dan Clowes is one of my favorite cartoonists. So I was very familiar with the approach of two-color. And I thought, wow, that would work for me. And when we got into this, you know, Scott's initial thought was, we'll get Dave Stewart. It's like, we can't afford that. Well, we didn't know at the time. We didn't expect to do much more than break even. And when you start adding up full color and what the cost is on a graphic novel, so to me it was like, okay, this is the time to make this jump and see if people will put up with it.